They've crisscrossed the country dozens of times, but for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, the closing hours of the campaign played out in very different ways. Trump continued his blitz through the swing states, raising concerns about the legitimacy of the election process, while thousands of Harris supporters gathered in Philadelphia for a star-laden rally as the Democrat candidate placed her final focus on an optimistic message. Our reporters have been following every step of the final days of the race. We begin tonight's coverage with North America correspondent Barbara Miller in the must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Close to midnight on the eve of America's election, one final pitch to voters.
Just one more day in the most consequential election of our lifetime, and the momentum is on our side.
Addressing supporters from the place made famous by the 1970s movie Rocky.
Here at these famous steps, a tribute to those who start as the underdog and climb to victory.
In a sign of just how important Pennsylvania is, Harris spent the whole day in the state.
Let's get this done.
Jetting to Philadelphia for her grand finale with some A-list backers.
I cast my vote for someone who will be a president for all.
Every single vote, every one is going to matter. That's why I've come to Philadelphia tonight.
Puerto Rican star Ricky Martin also taking the stage. He endorsed Harris after a comedian at a Trump rally joked his homeland was garbage. The Democratic candidate noticeably didn't name her opponent, but she certainly referenced him.
Turn the page on a decade of politics that has been driven by fear and division.
Do you think she's going to win?
I don't want to say that because I don't want people to think we have it in the bag and not come out and vote. But yes.
I think she's going to win by a landslide.
Really? Philadelphia has seen this kind of rally before. Exactly 8 years ago, it was the setting for another Election Eve campaign event by another Democrat, hoping to become America's first female president.
Pennsylvania, it all happens tomorrow.
Kamala Harris and her supporters hoping this time history will be made. Barbara Miller, ABC News, Philadelphia.
The former president was making his last-ditch attempts to woo undecided voters with a starkly different vision for the country. Donald Trump mostly steered away from prepared remarks as he lobbed insults and a furious tirade against his Democratic opponents.
Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out. Get the hell out of here.
Donald Trump is on the warpath.
If we get everybody out and vote, there's not a thing they can do.
The former president was also in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania, making his last-ditch pitch to be the leader of the free world for the second time. In his final rally before the nation decides who'll be president, Donald Trump came out swinging.
And I will stop the invasion of criminals coming across our border. I will strengthen our military. I will restore peace in the world. And I will rescue the American dream. But Kamala is, this is known, she's a very low IQ person. And we don't need a low IQ individual. We've had that for 4 years.
Across the United States, the mood for Republicans is confident and combative.
I think Donald Trump's going to have a red wave, is what I think.
I watched the hearings from the last 2020 election, and it was blatant fraud. Nothing came of it. But I think we're ahead of the game this time.
Trump voters out in strength for a final push before voting day. Donald Trump's third presidential campaign ended here in Michigan much like it began. Promises to end wars, improve the cost of living, and cast a long shadow of doubt over the legitimacy of one of the world's oldest democracies. Elias Kluwer, ABC News, Grand Rapids.
With the campaigning complete and Election Day soon dawning, America's future is now in the hands of the voting public. North America correspondent Jade McMillan is in Florida.
The opening of polls across the country brings an extraordinary campaign to a close. Both candidates are retreating to familiar territory for Election Day. The Vice President will return to her old university in Washington, D.C., while the former president will be here at his home in Florida's West Palm Beach. Regardless of the outcome, it will be historic. Kamala Harris would become America's first ever female president. Donald Trump only its second to make a comeback after being voted out of the White House. But for many Americans, this is a nerve-wracking moment. 4 years on from the violent aftermath of the last election, security is being stepped up at polling places and counting centres. Authorities preparing for the possibility that the end of a tumultuous campaign could signal the beginning of another divisive period.
And some of the very first votes have now been tallied and reported. I caught up with US election analyst Casey Briggs a short time ago to preview our coverage as the first figures came through.
Tomorrow, it's decision day. American voters will pick their next president. But one town has had a head start. We have the first figures in the state of New Hampshire, specifically from this bit of New Hampshire, a little town called Dixville Notch. And at midnight local time, as it does every 4 years, it was the first place in America to report votes. The result? Kamala Harris 3 votes, Donald Trump 3. A tie. An omen of things to come? Look, obviously we're not going to read too much into that, but we are now off the blocks in the race for the White House. And tomorrow, here in the ABC Election Centre, those 6 votes will become tens of millions. And we'll be here to count them all, along with Jeremy Fernandez.
Casey, our coverage kicks off before sunrise and continues right through the day, culminating in a special edition of ABC News at this time tomorrow night. I'll be co-hosting during the day with Bridget Brennan, plus a panel of experts exploring the key issues, not just for the United States, but also what's at stake for us here in Australia. Every count, every result beamed straight to us in the election centre and straight up onto the big board. Casey, these are the 538 electoral college votes, state by state, in a country that's split right down the middle.
Right down the middle indeed. On the left, all of the electoral college votes that were won by Joe Biden 4 years ago. On the right, those that were won by Donald Trump. And as the votes roll in tomorrow, and as those states start to get called one by one, these bricks in our big board will colour in, and we'll start to get a firmer idea of who'll be the 47th President of the United States.